Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Thornsberry, and I'm Chair of the Waterloo Board of Adjustment, calling our regular scheduled meeting of Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 to order. We were provided an agenda. Are there any issues with that agenda, additions, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a working agenda. In our packet are the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 28th, 2025. Have anyone found any additions, corrections, typos, etc.?
I would move the approval as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. We have approved our minutes. We have 3 decision items this evening. And the first one is a request by Casey Dyball for a variance to allow for a 30-foot by 60-foot, 1,800 square feet accessory structure in the required front yard in the R1 1 and 2 family residence district located at 4843 Shelley Court. May we have the staff report, please?
Just starting off with staff, the applicant is requesting a variance for a 30 by 60, 1,800 square foot accessory structure in the required front yard. The property is located at 4843 Shelley Court and is zoned R1 1 and 2 family residence district. It has been zoned as such since the passage of zoning ordinance 4720 on September 15, 2004, when it was rezoned from A1 agricultural district. The request would not appear to have a negative impact on the neighborhood as the property sits back behind the neighboring properties. Traffic conditions would not appear to have a negative impact on traffic conditions in the area. The section of zoning ordinance pertains to this request is Chapter 5, General Regulations, 10-5-1E, accessory structures. The applicant's requesting to construct a 30 by 60, 1,800 square foot accessory structure in the required front yard. However, the covenants of the deed of dedication for the subdivision clearly says that the accessory structures are limited to behind the single-family dwelling, restricted to no more than 145 square feet in size and no more than 10 feet in height. Lack of reasonable return. There would not appear to be a lack of reasonable return as the owner could build an accessory structure behind the house. Uniqueness, or would appear to be uniqueness to the request as the property in question sits behind other properties along Shelley Court, therefore will face their backyards. Public consideration. There has been several phone calls in opposition to this request. 4 of them I know of for sure. Therefore, staff recommends that the request by Casey Dyball for a variance to allow for a 30 by 60, 1,800 square foot accessory structure in the required front yard in R1 1 and 2 family residence district located at 4843 Shelley Court be tabled for the following reasons. At the time, the staff was waiting for an opinion from city attorney on the covenants of the deed of dedication. However, if the Board of Adjustment approves the request, it should be with the following conditions: that the owner obtains a waiver from the covenants of the deed of dedication from the property owners within the subdivision and will need a signature of the original developer. Plus, I have received 2 emails on this that I'll read. The first one is, I live at 4891 Shelley Court and see there's a variance for the above address. I have seen the plans for this, and my only concern is the usage of such a building. A detached structure with 16-foot sidewalls, 1 14-foot overhead door, and 1 service door screams commercial usage. This has no windows, stone, or other visually appealing elements to the front of the drawings. If the usage is personal use, like a car collection, toy storage, RV parking, then it would be completely fine with it. If this is to be used as a warehouse, overflow storage, or otherwise any other business uses, I would be objection to this. Number 1, the safety of my kids playing in the neighborhood with commercial vehicles regularly or semis, regularly using our street to access or egress of the building. The other reason is the property values here. as I hope to see this remain a 100% residential neighborhood with no zoning variance issued for any kind of business or commercial usage. Any variances for such a negative impact of the property values in the neighborhood. The other question would be who would be tasked with monitoring such a building after the fact. Again, if this is for personal usage, by all means, go for it. Oblique could be a little more aesthetic pleasing. If this is for any kind of commercial use, I object to this. Respectively, Max Klein, 4891 Shelley Court. Then the second one is from Renee Lupkus, who is present, but I'll read her email. I am opposing the variance at 4843 Shelley Court. First of all, I find it unbelievable that I heard two completely different things from Planning and Zoning Department. I was told last week by neighbors within 500 feet would receive a letter on this and would have a chance to voice their opinion. I called late afternoon yesterday to get information and was told completely opposite. There would be no letters. No neighbors would be notified other than those that happened to see the variance sign, which apparently fell on the ground. It was up when we went by to take pictures. And the Board of Adjustment meeting to voice an opinion today at 4 o'clock. I also feel that since this property is part of an HOA, that all persons belonging to the HOA should be notified as well. I would question if this is even allowed according to the HOA, since last I knew Mr. Dieball is president of the HOA. That's even more reason for the rest of the HOA to be aware. I was told at P&Z that the homeowners has talked to the neighbors about this. He did not talk to me. My property line is adjacent to his and probably more so than any other property. I know of several others that have no knowledge of this as well. This appears to be a commercial building constructed on a residential lot. What specific purpose and need for this building and what will be stored in it? Is this a business use? Will there be truck traffic in and out? I oppose the request for a variance at 4843 Shelley Court.
Thank you. Any questions for staff, please? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of this application?
Well, I'm Casey. Sorry.
Please state your name and your address, please, for the
Casey
record.
Dieball, 4843 Shelley Court. The building is going to be a indoor soccer building for my kids to play soccer in the winter. So it's not going to have any commercial use. So that answers your question, Renee. What other questions did you have?
Speak here.
Okay, so I mean the building, I guess I could put directly behind my garage and it wouldn't need a variance. I was just wanting to put it, a little bit farther north, I guess, which would be considered the front yard. I've talked to a few neighbors. Most of them were in favor. I didn't talk to Mr. Klein, but he was kind of saying that he was opposed to it because he thought it'd be a commercial building, but it will not be. He was in for any business or any commercial. So that's, I guess, all I have.
Questions, please?
Are you actually the president of the HOA?
I am, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you are familiar with the HOA?
The HOA rule. So in that staff report, it says that I'm not allowed to have a building over 145 square feet. My lot is tract B, and that's actually exempt from that. I am allowed to have, per the HOA rules, I am allowed to have a building 1,800 square feet. So my lot is exempt from that specific rule.
How long have you been president of this HOA?
Probably since 2020.
Okay. So you're on track B.
Yes.
What size is your first accessory building?
I don't have one.
Well, they're
Garage.
talking about your attached garage.
The attached garage. I don't know off the top of my head, probably 30 by 50 maybe.
Okay. So we're talking about paragraph 3 in the deed of dedication. although 2 accessory buildings not to exceed a total of 1,800 square feet in size may be constructed or placed on track B. The location of any such detached storage building is limited in location to the rear area of the lot behind the residential single-family dwelling located on said lot. Okay.
Which is what you just previously said. You could build this to the
Behind.
rear of your home.
Yes, yeah, correct, right behind the garage,
Then there wouldn't be an issue.
No?
correct.
And
And are you willing to do that?
Yes, I mean, I am, if that's what has to happen, I suppose.
being the good neighbor and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
know, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke with Ron earlier, and he said that, if we dressed it up, he'd be okay, but he's my neighbor, kind of right next to him, and next to me, and he said that, if we dressed it up and made it a little nicer, then he would be okay with moving it, a little bit north towards his property, but it would require me to get, the other neighbors to sign off on it as well.
Okay, other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to hear from, here we go. Okay. That's fine.
My name's Ron Knutsvig. I live at 4847 Shelley Court. I am just to the west of him. I guess my only concern was that when you drive down and look at my house, I just don't want to see a big warehouse there. And I talked to Casey. Casey actually called me about an hour and a half ago and was explaining what he was doing. I know the big concern was the big building, 14-foot garage door. It's going to be a warehouse. There's going to be workers there. There's going to be trucks in and out. That was the big concern. And nobody had really talked to Casey, and Casey reached out to me, and I just told him that my concern was when you drive down Shelley Court, you see my house, and then you see a warehouse, and then you see his house. And that was my concern. And I was kind of looking for maybe a curb appeal or something. And Casey had said that, he was considered doing something to make it look better, that it doesn't look like a warehouse. He does a great job with his kids. I don't have any problems with any of my neighbors, and I don't want to have any problems. I just want, when you drive down, when you see my house, I don't want a warehouse sitting there, and he understands that too. So, with maybe just taking a little recess on this, if I think a lot of the neighbors know if Casey's just going to put it in for soccer and stuff, I don't think it'll be a big problem. He said to me that he would reach out and try to mark out where his building was going to be, and we take a look at it. I'd work with Casey. I don't think anybody has a problem with him building something as long as it's not a business thing. So, but that's something that me and Casey can work out. The other people can work out stuff. I mean, the other people have complaints too, but my complaint is being right next to him was I just didn't want a warehouse beside me. So if you table it, that's great. Table it for 6 years, that's more great, but I'm just kidding. But, we can, you ain't gonna hit me, are you? Okay. Go ahead and finish. Okay, so that's all I got to say, so.
Thank you for your comments.
Stay there for just a moment.
Oh,
Uh,
he is gonna hit me.
So would you have an issue if he put it in his backyard?
Well, that's kind of where the lot is so strange. I mean, because what you're seeing is,
Can you see the aerial that's,
yeah, when they sent that,
well, if I come up the driveway off of Shelley Court, am I looking at the front of the house? No. Where's the front? Which way is the?
Required front or effective front?
Let's
Mr.
talk
Schrader
about-
with
Let's
staff.
talk about both. Go ahead.
Because this property has access from Shelley Court, that northerly side is the required front yard. So from that northerly most wall of the house or anything attached to the house. So that north wall of the attached garage, anything from there north of that is the required front yard. But effectively, this house was designed so that what looks like the front is facing east. So, it's to a normal person, that would look like the side of the house there as you're coming down the driveway.
Okay. So help me understand, where's the backyard?
So by the zoning ordinance definition,
By
that's
on the picture.
the southerlymost wall of the house.
All right, so if the driveway is running, if you will, east and west,
No, that driveway is running north and south.
north and south, all right? So, go on.
And then south of that is the house, and then south of the house, there's a strip of ground that would be the rear yard as defined by the zoning ordinance, which is not a real huge area because of how this house was set on the lot
Put a building that size back there
and put that far back.
right. Okay. So putting it in the backyard probably isn't gonna,
Yeah, but that is the garage that protrudes out, right? The house, and then the garage there on the west,
north.
north. It's on the west side, okay. All right. All right. What else were you going to say, Eric?
This
Thank
Strader
you.
with staff, I just
Thank you
want,
for your comments.
Yep, thank you.
Strader with staff, I just wanted to note, obviously the board can do whatever they want here, but I'm just reiterating that staff is recommending tabling and based on the comments, we're going to stick to that recommendation for tabling for a couple of different reasons. First off, I will point to page 22 of the packet, which is the first page of the deed of dedication in section 1. And I'll go to the fourth line in that section where it notes, developer or its assignee shall have the sole authority to determine which of the covenants, restrictions, and easements contained in paragraphs 2, 3, 5, and I don't need to read them all. 3 is the one that we're of most interest to, that the developer or assignee has the sole authority to determine which of those covenants shall apply to tracts B, C, and D, and tract B is the one in question. So we're particularly interested in covenant 3 and whether or not it applies to tract B. And per this, the developer or its assignee has the sole authority to make that determination. I am not positive, but I have received a verbal indication that the developer transferred or assigned that to the HOA. I would want to see verification of that, and then I would want to see verification of the HOA's determination on what of the restrictions in section 3 apply to tract B. And then subsequently in section 18, I think it's 18, that one got cut. John, did you?
Yeah, they all have current
the-
updated.
Okay.
What you're reading from, sir, I don't, in the packet, it shows 10/7/14, but what we have in front of us is notarized January 13th of 2015,
Do you have a copy of that, John?
which reads
I
differently
don't
in
have-
section 3. Yeah. Look at number 3 on that one.
To see if
Okay.
number 1 is worded different.
Okay.
Yeah, so numbers have changed, but it does have the wording that the developer or its assignee shall have the sole authority to determine the extent to which the covenants, restrictions, or easements contained in the subsequent paragraphs apply. And then,
And
I don't know if
applies.
this one changed, but there was also a provision about the developer approving all plans, developer or assignee.
Let's find that.
Apparently, they changed them between the final plat and recording. Looks like 25 is just
Oh, it
about the
said-
sidewalk.
The transfer of said lot within 5 years.
Which one are you looking at?
The newest one.
Yeah, but what,
Oh, 25,
Okay.
paragraph 25.
and. Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yes,
there's a lot of legalities in this.
I know.
I think we really should.
I think we should, yeah.
Dig into it.
All right, you know what? None of us are attorneys here, I think.
Right.
So-
And then one other
Yes.
issue of note that I was going to raise is that the applicant has not requested a height variance based on the discussion of nothing in what was submitted provides height information for the building other than, I think there was a reference to a 14-foot overhead door. So I still don't know the height of the building, but I think it is extremely likely that it would also need a variance to the zoning ordinance height restriction of 18 feet to the midpoint,
Okay, good.
which there have been instances where we've had a variance for items and the height got missed and the board added that to the request, considering that, you know, it was already under discussion. So, you know, adding a particular height variance doesn't substantially change the request. But you could only do that if you know the height,
Right,
which I currently don't have that information.
thank you. Okay, anyone else? You can keep that, we got one.
I would just mention, I talked
Yes.
to Mike Young
Yes,
this afternoon about who was the original, wrote this thing, and they don't have any problems with this project.
he's the attorney, not the developer.
Right.
Yeah,
For the developer.
okay, that's good input. Anyone else who wants to speak in favor of this application? All right, please, you want to speak against this application? Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address.
I'm Renee Lupkus, 4862 West 4th Street.
Move that mic down, please. There you go.
So he read my email that I sent this afternoon, so that, and I heard Eric comment on some things that I had also wanted to point out. I have a copy of the covenants, but I don't know if those change over the years, so I don't know if this is current, but yes, it talks about in there that tract B, maybe not all of those points apply to them, that's up to the developer, or in this case, has that been handed off from developer to HOA? And in that case, is it the HOA that decides whether or not these things apply to tract B? And number 3 on mine is about the attached building. I think, Eric, you talked about that, about the size of it and the location. But number 10 on mine says, and again, this is before I knew anything about what this was supposed to be, and to me, it was sounding and looking like a commercial building on a residential lot. No obnoxious or offensive trade or activity shall be carried on upon any lot, nor shall anything be done thereon which may be or become an annoyance or nuisance to the neighborhood. And then just reiterate again, number 25 on my covenant sheet says, for the purpose of protecting and maintaining the integrity of the addition, the developer, and again, does that mean now the HOA, hereafter reserves the right to review all plans for construction of driveways, garages, all building plans, and it goes on. I guess my concern is, well, I think the adjacent lots should have a right to know about this. Not many did. I only found out about it because a friend of mine was walking in the neighborhood and saw the sign laying on the ground. I've talked to over half a dozen neighbors. They knew nothing of it. I also think the right thing would be for everyone in the HOA to know about this and give their stamp of approval or disapproval. Yeah. I don't, if Mr. Diebold's the president of the HOA, I don't know what his authority is with that, but I think that it does need to go out to everybody in the HOA. And it would also be nice if the adjoining neighbors would know about it, and would have gotten some notice about it too.
What's the date of your document you're reading from?
This says filed March 1st of 2016.
Okay, we have a document here that was executed on January 13th, 2015. So she can have a copy of this.
Is hers more current than ours?
No.
She said 16.
Did you say 16? Mm-hmm. Oh,
So this is getting really murky.
this is getting murky. Yeah, we need the,
It says e-filed March 1st of 2016. Blackhawk County Clerk of Court.
okay.
Dead stuff.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate you coming in. All right.
Thank you.
Ready?
Anyone else have
One
any
more
comments?
question.
Yes, please.
Is this going to have concrete flooring if it's a soccer field, or is it going to be grass?
I don't know.
To be determined.
To be determined. Okay, board. Any more comments, questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, I just think for me, it's difficult to make a decision when we have different versions of the deed of dedication. I think we've had 3 different iterations that we're trying to go from, so I prefer to have one consistent version that we can all base that information on and make an informed decision going forward. But until then, it's difficult to for me to come to a decision about what we should move forward with.
Thank you. Agreed?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, please.
My motion is to table the request from Casey Diebold for a variance to allow for a 30-foot by 60-foot, 1,800 square foot accessory structure in the required front yard in the R1, 1 and 2 family residence district at 4843 Shelley Court. With the following reason, that at the time, the staff is still waiting for an opinion from the city attorney on the covenants of the deed of dedication. And the fact, number 2, that, as Mr. Smith stated, we've had multiple versions of the deed, so it needs some clarity.
All right. Is there a second, please?
I would second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. This has been tabled for more information. Okay, moving on to decision item number 2. This is a request by Crossroads Community Church of the Nazarene for a permanent variance to an expired temporary variance to the hard surfacing requirements to allow for recycled asphalt in the R2, 1 and 2 family residence district located at 3622 Hammond Avenue. Staff report, please.
This is Geilman with staff. So the applicant is requesting a variance to the hard surfacing requirement to allow for a recycled asphalt parking lot. The property is zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residence district and has been since the adoption of the zoning ordinance. The property to the north is zoned A1 agricultural district. Properties to the east and south are zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residence district. Properties to the west are zoned R2 and R4 multiple residence district. This request would not is not anticipated to have a negative impact on the neighborhood, as the staff is not aware of any complaints about the parking lot. The request would not appear to have a negative impact on traffic conditions in the area. The church is served by Hammond Avenue. The zoning ordinance requires that vehicular use areas be hard surfaced. The applicant is seeking a variance to this requirement to allow for a recycled asphalt parking lot. The applicant previously received a 3-year temporary variance to the hard surfacing requirement to allow for the new parking lot to be constructed of recycled asphalt. That temporary variance was granted in August of 2012 and expired in August of 2015. That parking lot has not been hard surfaced yet. Criteria: lack of reasonable return. There does not appear to be a lack of reasonable return. The applicant can hard surface the parking lot. Uniqueness: there appears to be uniqueness to the request, as the parking lot has been recycled asphalt since it was first made, and there have been no complaints about it that the staff are aware of. Public consideration: staff has heard no opposition to the request. The request would not appear to alter the essential character of the surrounding area. Therefore, staff recommends that the request by Crossroads Community Church of the Nazarene for a permanent variance to the hard surfacing requirements to allow for recycled asphalt in the R2, 1 and 2 family residence district located at 3622 Hammond Avenue be denied for the following reasons. 1, the 3-year temporary variance expired approximately 10 years ago. 2, the applicant can hard surface the parking lot or remove the parking lot and return it to grass if it is not needed to meet minimum parking requirements. However, staff recommends that a 1-year temporary variance to the hard surfacing requirements be approved for the following reasons: to give the applicant time to get the funds and plans in place to properly hard surface the parking lot.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
Just a minute.
I may have a couple.
Go ahead.
So I'm curious, has the church communicated any progress towards the fund development, towards this parking lot? Given it's been 13 years or so, curious if a 1-year extension will give them the time to get the funds that are needed, since they haven't been able to do that over the past decade or so. Just curious if they communicate any gains towards that.
I sent them the letter that they were out of compliance. I did get the application. Beyond that, I have gotten they have not really given us much information at all. Because I know they originally said back when they got the 3-year variance that they just needed to raise money. So that was in the original, their original notes from when it previously came through.
Thank you.
So I have a question, and help me understand. They've had this recycled asphalt on their parking lot for over 10 years. What is it about our code that says that they have to put in hard surfacing, which would be concrete, right?
Or asphalt, regular asphalt.
So this recycled asphalt is okay for hard surfacing?
No.
Why, what is recycled asphalt? Is that the little bits? Okay. Although it's been functioning for 13 years or so and it's fine.
Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. Basically, you can think of an asphalt street. Once it comes up, it gets ground up and basically it's turned into basically rock. The only difference is that it's black because it's got the asphalt in it. And it tends to stick together a little bit better than just regular gravel, but it does eventually wear out and you do need to treat it like a gravel surface and add to it over time periodically. But yeah, it's not considered the same as an asphalt or concrete.
Thank you.
My turn.
Yes, sir.
So if this is denied, as staff is recommending, what happens? Are they cited, or, I mean, what action is taken once that would happen, if that would happen?
This is Schrader with staff. If that would happen, we would issue them the notice to pave it or remove it, assuming I'd have to review the parking counts to see if they could remove it and meet parking requirements. I think it was added later, so they might meet parking requirements without it. But generally, when we provide someone such a notice, we'll provide a reasonable time period, usually something in the order of 60 to 90 days before we would actually issue the citation. But yes, if they didn't respond or didn't indicate, with a timeline on getting the fix, then that would be the next step, would be an issuance of a citation.
And then again, how did this come to our attention?
So Mr. Dornoff in our office has been proactively trying to go after the previous temporary approvals and do checks and get us into compliance. So it's one of those that I think might have been missed for a couple of years, but we're trying to make sure we get them all, if they have fallen through a crack, to make sure if they only got a temporary approval, that they've either properly paved it or come back to the board for some sort of approval until they can get it properly fixed.
Thank you.
May I ask a follow-up to your question?
You sure may.
So I'm curious about the return it to grass and the cost of a lot that size to return that to grass, and whatever our stipulated period may be, 90 days, 60 days, versus the cost to pave this thing. Either way, they're probably facing a fairly significant cost.
Returning it to grass is definitely going to be less. I don't know, Jamie, if you would you have any venture of a guess as to cost difference between returning it to grass versus paving it? I mean, because more than likely if they asphalt over it, they could potentially leave what's there as base. But
Either way, it can't stay the same.
Just a minute.
Yeah, Jamie Knudsen, city engineer, if they remove it and they strip that, they bring in some topsoil and seed it, it's still several thousands of dollars to remove it and reseed it. That's probably 20% of the cost of actually paving it. There are certain requirements in the zoning ordinance for thickness of paving and that sort of stuff. There are some things that they could do, as Eric mentioned. They could leave the existing recycled there and pave asphalt over the top of it, use it as a base, but it's still going to be more expensive paving it than it is to remove it and put grass in there.
Is there anybody, I mean, obviously there's nobody here. Is there anybody
Nobody's
on-
here, yeah, and you haven't heard. Okay,
Wait a minute. Never mind. Nobody's.
okay.
Hey, Joseph, did you ever hear from them? Okay, that's what I thought.
No, not heard. So we could issue the variance for 1 year.
No. I mean, if they don't even have, I mean, why aren't they here? Why aren't they here?
10 years,
They
why
need to
aren't
be,
they
they
here?
need to be here.
Okay, all right.
I'm not in favor of doing that.
All right, any more questions of the board? All right. Chair will entertain.
Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you.
I just had a quick question for Mr. Knudsen. Is that portion of that temporary parking lot figured into their stormwater retention detention?
Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. Yes, Mr. Bozen, it is. I did check that before because I thought that might come up. And yes, it was included in their stormwater detention years ago.
Thank you.
Good. All right, now, ready for a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to deny the request by Crossroads Community Church of the Nazarene for a permanent variance to the hard surfacing requirements to allow for recycled asphalt in the R2 1 and 2 family residence district located at 3622 Hammond Avenue for the following reason. Number one, the 3-year temporary variance expired approximately 10 years ago. Number two, the applicant can hard surface the parking lot or remove the parking area and return it to grass if not needed to meet minimum parking requirements. And number three, the applicant has not responded to planning and zoning, or nor are they present at this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of denying this application for a permanent variance to the hard surfacing requirements, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the third decision item tonight is a request by Oro Empire LLC for a permanent variance to the hard surface parking requirement to allow for a gravel vehicle use area in the C2 Commercial District located adjacent to 400 Broadway Street. Staff report, please.
This is Tamala with staff. The applicant is requesting a variance to the hard surfacing requirement to permanently allow for the current gravel surface. The property is located at the intersection of Broadway Street and Bratnober Street. The property is zoned C2 Commercial District. Properties to the north, south, and east are zoned C2 Commercial District and R3 Multiple Residence District. Properties to the west are zoned C2 Commercial District and M1 Light Industrial District. The request could have a negative impact on the neighborhood by setting a precedent for other requests. The lots and businesses zoned C2 Commercial District in the immediate vicinity meet the hard surfacing requirement. There are also residential neighborhoods in the immediate vicinity. The permanent variance request for the hard surfacing requirement would not conform with the essential character of the neighborhood. The request would not appear to have any negative impact on traffic conditions in the area. The proposed request would not be in conformance with the classification of this area as commercial on the future land use map within the city of Waterloo, comprehensive plan adopted February 3rd, 2003. Sections of the zoning ordinance that pertain to the request. Chapter 25, off-street parking required, general requirements. The zoning ordinance requires driveways and parking areas, vehicle use areas for commercial and industrial uses to be hard surface. The applicant is asking for a permanent variance to allow for the current gravel surface on the lot abutting 400 Broadway Street. The permanent variance request for the hard surface requirement would not conform with the essential character of the commercial and residential surrounding area. Since it is classified as commercial on the future land use map, hard surfacing is essential for conformance and public use. Furthermore, it is suspected that it has been non-compliant since around 2002 with gravel surfacing. Lack of reasonable return. There does not appear to be a lack of reasonable return. The applicant has been non-compliant with the zoning ordinance for many years. Uniqueness. The property in question is not unique due to the fact that the area where the gravel is residing is used for standard vehicle parking and storage. Public considerations. The staff has heard no opposition to the request. The request would appear to alter the essential character of the surrounding area. I would like to note we did receive one call showing their approval of their request, that the person cited that people fall on hard times and different hardships and that they're okay with the current gravel surface. Therefore, staff recommends that the request by Oro Empire LLC for a permanent variance to the hard surface parking requirement to allow for a gravel vehicular use area in the C2 Commercial District located adjacent to 400 Broadway Street be denied for the following reasons. The property in question is not unique because the area where the gravel surface is residing is used for standard vehicle parking and could be properly hard surfaced. The request would appear to have a negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood because the lot zone C2 Commercial District in the immediate vicinity meet the hard surfacing requirement, and the request would set a precedence for other requests. Any questions for staff?
Questions for staff?
Again, I don't see anybody in the audience or online. Has there been contact with the applicant? Have they responded, I guess?
When they originally turned in their application.
This is Tamala with staff. I did email them the staff report and everything that I just read, and to the email they provided, and I did not get any response from them. And I did let them know the location and time of the hearing today.
So similar to the church that we just dealt with?
Yep.
Okay.
No
All right.
response.
Yes, sir.
Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. Just want to point out to the board that this came up about a year ago, and there's been questions about it with the expansion. They are most likely over the requirements needed for stormwater, and we have never seen a plan for the expansion, whether it was gravel or hard surfaced. So whatever the board decides to do, it'd be nice if you would add a condition that they provide a site plan if they decide to move forward with trying to make this legal.
Well, I think that would factor in if they actually came in
Yeah.
and addressed this.
Right. All right, any further questions? There's no one in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against this proposal. Yes, please.
Oh, no, I was just curious, in the letter accompanied, by the property owners, they're requesting a permanent variance, but they're also saying that they want some time to develop a plan. So I guess I'm a little confused as to why they want permanent variance for a temporary bridge gap or stopgap if they plan to actually hard surface it. So it has me a little confused as to what they're requesting and what they maybe intend to do.
I will say that this has been an ongoing issue property with code enforcement. And as you can tell from the pictures, it wasn't gravelled in 2022, was gravelled afterwards. And I know Maria's been there a lot. And I don't know who drove by that lot, but it's not in the best of shape.
So it's straighter with staff. I would just note they're, requesting variance until the owners decide on a development plan for their lots. So I don't think they're talking about a plan for the parking lot. They're talking about a plan for the redevelopment of the entire site. But that, just pointing that out, but that doesn't change, that it's currently being used as a gravel parking lot for, I don't know if it's vehicle repair, vehicle sales. There might not even be a legal use on this, because if it is just repair, it's zone C2. Auto repair is only allowed in the C2 district if it's incidental to an auto sales facility. Otherwise, auto repair is an industrial use. So I think the site does have a license to sell vehicles. Doesn't look like it's really being operated as a sales, but that we're looking at that as a separate issue for how we're trying to address the surfacing. And it was our recommendation of denial. They can either remove it or properly pave it.
And so you're saying the development plan is like a development plan for their business?
I believe so.
Yeah,
For
that's how I
redevelopment
read
of the
it, yeah.
entire site is they're trying, I think that's what they're trying to get at there.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
3 for 3.
Let's have a motion, please.
You want? I will move that this be denied for the 2 reasons that are stated, plus the lack of development agreement moving forward. So I recommend the permanent variance of the hard surface parking requirement to be allowed for gravel be denied. The property in question is not unique because of the area where the gravel surface is residing is used for standard vehicle parking and could be properly hard surfaced. And the request would appear to have a negative impact in the surrounding area, zoned C2 commercial district. Immediate vicinity meets the hard surfacing requirement, and without the plan, I just move denial.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to deny passes. All right, that concludes the 3 decision items we have tonight. Any further discussion?
Move to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
moved and seconded. We are adjourned.